Superintendent Winston, good to see you once again, and welcome back to Insight.
Thank you. It is good to be back.
We have a lot to talk about this time around, so we'll jump right into it. CMS has a plan for students to return back to the campus. Of course, we know that this is something that had a lot of forethought and was not taken lightly. How did you and the board decide how students would go back to school? Was it the numbers, the metrics? What went into that process?
Absolutely. So you are correct that there was a lot of thought and planning that went into determining the plan to bring students back. Ultimately, the board has approved a plan that brings back our exceptional children students, students in our EC program. So they have returned to the buildings first, followed by our pre-K students. And the reason we focus on bringing our EC and pre-K students back, because we know that for some of our students, it is best that they learn in person. And so we wanted to prioritize our EC and pre-K students. They will be followed by our elementary school students, our middle and high school students in a staggered entry format.
So some students have returned back to the campus. When will all students be back on campus, and how will you decide when that happens?
Ultimately, we will be guided by our metrics. The metrics was developed by the Metrics Advisory Committee, which is a group of healthcare experts as well as staff members who developed a set of criteria that will help guide us to determine when to bring more students back, or if we need to move in the other direction. But that ultimately will help guide our decision, is our metrics, which are reflective of our local conditions.
So you're looking at the science and the numbers, and I've been told you have a dashboard that the public can access as well on the website. What is this dashboard about, and what can we learn from it?
Yes, so we decided to create a dashboard and put that on our website so that our public can know and understand the numbers. And so it was for us, it was about being transparent, so that the public knows the number of student and staff cases that are in the district. And we thought that was extremely important to do that.
And this is something that is updated how often?
The dashboard is updated weekly. And so on every Monday afternoon, the dashboard will be updated with numbers from the previous week.
So that we can see how many students or how many staff members have been tested positive or remain negative.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, of course, before you bring back students to campus, you have to make sure that you have adequate staff in place. What are the staffing numbers currently looking like?
The staffing numbers overall, we're in good shape as it relates to our staffing, and that will be an important factor in determining whether to return to school, because our staffing is part of our overall metrics.
Some parents, of course, have decided that they will not send their children back to the classroom for whatever reason. That, of course, is their choice. How many of our students are remaining in full remote at this time as others go back?
So we have approximately 52,000 of our students in the full remote academy. And what that means is that those families have made a choice that no matter what plan CMS transitions in and out of, those students will remain in a full remote environment throughout the entire semester.
Okay. Well, with them, some students or some schools, of course, having that full 50% at full remote. Other schools have about 10%. What will be the challenges for schools as they try to teach students who are on remote, students who are in the classroom?
So it will definitely not be a one-size-all approach that we'll be taking. It will be a little bit more challenging for schools that have fewer students in a full remote environment, because that means that we'll have more students coming in person to learn. The opposite for schools that have more students in the full remote academy, they'll have fewer students inside the buildings, inside the classrooms learning. And so we will have to work very hard to continue to focus on social distancing, no matter how many students are in the school building. But I'm very confident that our principals will do a phenomenal job, as they have already proven. The principals know their staff and their communities better than anyone. And so I have full faith and confidence in them and will continue to support them in this endeavor.
Any idea what that might look like, let's say, for the classroom, when teachers have students who are in remote, learning remotely, and they have students sitting in front of them who are learning face-to-face? Any idea what that might look like, and are you certain that each student will be learning at, let's say, 100%?
So that is certainly our focus, is to make sure that we're providing a quality, rigorous education for students, no matter if they're in a remote environment or if they're in an in-person environment. Our teachers are doing a tremendous job. I know this comes with some additional challenges, but I am fully confident that they will meet those expectations that we have for them.
Being flexible and agile, right?
Absolutely. Continue to be flexible and grant grace.
Okay. This year, CMS experienced a dip in enrollment. What accounts for that?
Well, I guess the biggest factor is the fact that parents are making different decisions based upon their preference. And that's certainly something that we respect. It is not unique to Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. It is not unique to districts across the country. They are all experiencing a drop in enrollments. But one thing that's important to point out is the fact that our team here in CMS, it's charged with educating every student who walks through our door. And so that's where our focus is making sure that we're providing the best education possible for every kid who walks through our door.
And they are walking through the door. So
yes, they are coming back.
They're coming back. Remind our viewers of the safety measures that will be in place for students and for staff when they do walk in the door, because we want everyone to be comfortable.
Absolutely. So before a student or a staff member enters a building, each person is required to undergo a symptom screening, which asks a few basic questions to determine your health readiness for entering the building. And if you fail that symptom screening, you will not be allowed into the building that day. That's one component. We also are providing face coverings for students and all staff members. We are also limiting the number of visitors who come into the building. But we're also stressing that social distancing remains a key focus of our efforts, along with making sure that you wash your hands constantly or use hand sanitizer.
Okay, so some of the cleaning challenges are being looked at by our custodial staff.
Yes, our custodial staff has done a tremendous job making sure that the buildings are clean and safe for students and staff to enter. And I just can't say enough good things about the tremendous job that they are doing. So I want to give a shout out to all of our custodians across the district because it's important when students and other staff walk into a building. It's important that they feel safe and they feel comfortable in that environment.
Ready to work and ready to learn.
Yes.
What have you heard about staff as they return to school and as they prepare to come back to school? What are you hearing from them?
I had the opportunity and privilege to visit several of our schools a few weeks ago, in particular when students in our Exceptional Children's Program returned to school. One of the things that I constantly heard from staff members was that I am so glad to be back. To be in person with our students certainly makes a difference. There's no replacement for being in person and being able to look a student in the eye.
But not all teachers are that enthusiastic about going back to school just yet.
That is correct. That is correct. And so part of the opportunity that exists is to make sure that we're providing constant information for all teachers so that they can see firsthand the safety precautions that are being taken. And I think once they understand that more fully and they have an opportunity to re-enter the buildings, they will feel more comfortable.
Of course, you want students to be back in school, face-to-face with.
Absolutely. I want all students to be back in school, but only when it's safe to do so. We know that we'll be guided by our metrics, and so it's important. We know the optimal learning conditions is in person for students. And so that's what we want. But again, I want to stress the fact that we only want to make that happen when it is absolutely safe to do so.
Now, apparently the numbers are saying it's okay or it's safe at this particular time for students and staff to return. But of course, we know that numbers change. That's not set in stone. What happens if the metrics or the numbers change?
Absolutely. So we have said we will be guided by the metrics. They will help us make that determination of when it is safe to return to in-person learning for all students, but also if we need to pull back, we will pay close attention to those metrics. We monitor them constantly on a weekly and daily basis. And if we get into a predicament where the metrics are not going, the numbers are not going in the right direction, then it's my obligation to go to the Board of Education and make a recommendation for in-person learning or retreating, if you will.
So with that, what are you asking from parents, staff, community members, knowing that we are going back, but we're doing this with the numbers and that it could change? What do you need from us?
The most important thing that our families, our community members can do is to practice the 3 W's. And what do I mean by the 3 W's? I don't want to assume that everybody has heard of the 3 W's. First, make sure that you wear your face covering. Second, make sure that you wait and practice social distancing. And then third, make sure that you're constantly washing your hands or using hand sanitizer. If we all follow the 3 W's, I think we will get to that point sooner when all students are returning to in-person learning. And so that's critical because it's up to us as a community to make sure that that happens.
I'm going to let you fill in the blank. 2020 has been a blank year.
2020 has been a challenging year, but with challenges brings opportunities. And so one of the biggest opportunities that we have as a school district is to reimagine how we provide education, a quality, sound, rigorous education to all of our students.
What have we learned? What have you learned?
I have learned that it's important to work together as a team, that the more frequent communication that you have with your families, with your staff, with your students, the better. And oftentimes you have to say things multiple times and you can't rely on just saying it one time, but certainly communications is important. Teamwork is extremely important. And then just making sure that staff members and our students are exercising self-care during the pandemic. So those are 3 things that I have learned.
Well, we certainly want to end this show on a good note and a chance to celebrate. As always, we recognize our principals, and we are recognizing our Principal of the Year for the year 2020. You had a chance to make that recognition not long ago.
Yes, I had the privilege to recognize our 2020 CMS Principal of the Year, who is Erica Turner, the proud, amazing principal at Rocky River High School. I've had an opportunity to visit Rocky River on a number of occasions, and each time that I visit Rocky River, I am amazed at the culture and the climate that Principal Turner has built with her students, her faculty, and her entire school community. She has built a number of partnerships, and she leads with her heart. She sets expectations very high, but she is the epitome of professionalism, and she represents her colleagues throughout the district well.
Well, congratulations to her.
Yes, amazing.
Well, Superintendent Winston, we want to thank you so much for giving us so much insight this time around. It is always a pleasure to see you, and we thank you for the job that you do.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate our entire school district, our students, our staff, our amazing teachers, custodians, support staff, principals. everyone is pulling together, and I know that we're going to have a phenomenal school year.
Thank you for your insight.
Thank you.